Yo, can you give me a shock popsicle?
Yeah, bro. Got your shock popsicle right here.
What's up, fellow Sambarians? Today, I'm going to be doing the front struts on the van, Goober-chan. It's a 97 Sambar Diaz KV4. A little story before we get started on it. I ran across some struts on eBay. These guys. And they were 300 something bucks for the front set, which compared to buying them from Japan Parts or Amiyama was still a better deal. But I think these well, I don't know. Somebody did a video, I mean not a video, but someone posted in the Facebook group that these are slightly bigger diameter than the stock ones. I did take a caliper and I measured these and the factory ones, and it's very, very close, but I'm sure it's enough to make it easy to just slide into the shock mount on the hub or assembly there. So I'm going to attempt to use the old like crank pulley method, where you heat up the crank pulley, which expands the metal, and you cool down the crank pulley and it shrinks the metal, usually with like a bag of ice or something, and so they will slip right on, and then once it goes back down to normal temperature, it will squeeze onto the crankshaft. So I have a pair of these in the freezer right now, just chilling
out.
And I will end up heating these up, the hub shock mount assembly part, with a torch, in hopes that if these do not fit, we can slide them in. These, I will put a link in the description, but I will also put a link to the Japan Parts listing, so you can, decide whether you want to go with the eBay ones if I struggle, or go with the Japan Parts ones. I don't know yet. We're gonna find out. So I'm gonna go, this is obviously in the past, so my future self is gonna find out what kind of trouble we're in, if there is any trouble. But yeah, I'm just gonna show you guys how to change the front struts. Things are changing. You're gonna want to jack it up from the center of the van or your truck, where the two control arms meet. There's that center point. That's where you're supposed to jack it up from. I would just avoid putting the jack right on that nut that's down there. I think I call it, yeah, the little butt, looks like a butt cheek with a turtle head poking out. Don't want to squish the turtle head. The driver's side is a little bit more difficult than the passenger side, depending on how in depth you want to get. The two top bolts on the shock mount are, there's a couple plugs up there. You'll see that on the passenger side you can flip your seat up. On the truck or the van you can flip the seat up, and then you can pull those rubber plugs out. I'll show you later. But on the driver's side you actually have to unbolt the driver's seat and get it out. So we're just going to use a swivel head 3/8 ratchet to get those nuts off the top. It's about to go down. You're probably curious as to why this is yellow. So these are lowering springs that I ordered from off of Yahoo auctions using 500 yen. What you're gonna need to do first is remove the bolt holding the brake line onto the back of the shock. So that's just a 12 mil, I think it's a 12 millimeter.
And he sees. It's all over me.
So you mainly just need to replace your shocks if they're leaking oil, because at that point, they're really not doing anything other than holding your truck up off your wheels. So once you get that off, what the heck? That will just slide right off. And now I don't want to take the top bolts off quite yet, and mainly because you'll see. The top is what's gonna hold. Let's see here. The top is what's gonna hold the shock from when I try to push down on the control arm to get it to slip out of the, I don't know what you want to call this thing, a spindle, a hub. I'm not very good with names. I just know what it does. So there's the one bolt that squeezes the hub or spindle to the shock. And I had done, obviously, lowering springs on this, so I had the whole thing apart, and I put anti-seize on parts so when I went to go do something like this, it wouldn't be such a pain in the butt. So let's see how difficult it is going to be to get. So this is the fun part where we got to get the slip off the shock, push it off of the bottom. Okay, so the ducks are very distracting. If you have land, I highly recommend getting ducks. They are the next best thing to a dog. Okay, so both of those are loosened up. And, oop, drop the cap. Don't lose this guy. This sits on top of your strip. Okay, so now that we have that off, I have like a chisel. I'll slip it in the shock mount part and we'll pull the shock out. Just be careful when you're pulling everything apart. Your CV axle and your tie rod and all that stuff is going to be stretched out. It's going to get stretched out. Okay, so here we go. Here's our strut. I put anti-seize on it because I knew I was probably going to be taking these off at one time, and I did not want them to get stuck, because they will get stuck in there. You'll have to probably end up kicking them out, kicking that lower section off, or if you can pry it apart and use some penetration lube and a chisel and pry that thing off, pry it apart so you can get it out. But what I'm going to do is take this shock apart. We'll put the new shock on, and we're going to find out if she fits or not. Actually, I think I'm going to show the width difference with the caliper. Okay, so for those looking to purchase the eBay shocks, I'm getting about 50. I'm getting about, let's see here, get a good spot. I'm getting about 51 millimeters. And let's see what we're getting with factory. Yeah. We are just under 51. So I have a feeling it's just enough to make it a little bit difficult to slip in there. I don't know, we'll find out. I know somebody was having trouble with theirs, but maybe we'll get lucky and it was a manufacturing defect. So let's take let's take the shock apart now. So although these are lowering springs, I could probably take this off without it blowing off and exploding in my skull. But just to be safe, to take these apart, you're gonna need some coil compressors. coil spring compressors. So get yourself some coil spring compressors. Mine look like this. You're gonna need to get them from AutoZone or somewhere that will rent them to you, unless you buy a pair, which it's always good to have a set of coil compressors, because me being me, I'm constantly lowering my vehicles and working on them, and it's always good to have one of these guys. Here, let's get the camera down here. Okay. Vehicle suspension can be very dangerous, so I'm just giving you a heads up. If you're not comfortable or have ever... Hi, patitos. Hi, patitos. Hi. Hi. Hi, sunshine. Woo! Hi. Do you want to come in here and hang out? You want to come in here? If you've never messed with these before, or messed with suspension like this, I recommend having somebody who knows what they're doing. Make sure it's all good, and then let's see, what size are we up here? And then the Allen is a 9mm. Is a 9. No, I'm sorry, it's a 6. And the way front shocks work is that shaft, obviously it has an Allen, so it holds it so it doesn't spin it. And then you just loosen up the nut. Okay. So if this wasn't being held with these spring compressors, this thing would just blow off. Okay. So this is a new strut hat, brand new. I put on there. Like I said, I have these available. Here is your strut bearing. It's just, I kind of re-greased it a little bit, but it's just this plastic puck with the 2 sliding pieces. So that's why I say, hey, if you're there and it feels weird or looks bad, re-grease it. I re-greased mine, but I also have these for sale as well. And then we'll take the top piece off, and we'll take the plastic sheath off, and god dang, freaking, god dang, anti-seize, man, that stuff is the freaking worst. Okay, this thing's just like stuck to the shock. There we go. And there she is, off of the shock. Now what we're gonna do is get our frozen popsicle shocks. So these do have to be ground down a tiny bit. So we're just gonna shave off some of the paint, and it does have kind of not a very smooth bottom, so it's not slipping into that hole. I say, hindsight, don't buy these. Don't buy these shocks. These struts off of eBay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shave more off. These it would be safe just to go with the ones from Japan made for this car, because these ones apparently are not. I'll be right back. Okay, that did the trick. I just air die ground it down a little bit at a time. I'm gonna load it up with anti-seize, so hopefully it will keep that metal from rusting and seizing in there. But let's go ahead and put our shock back together now. So I mean, these are a cheaper option, but you're gonna have to make them work. Make sure that when you put it all back together, it goes plastic sleeve. Then this guy, it will sit right in that notch. You'll see it's got a notch, buck tooth there. That will sit on that. That notch will sit in the pocket. And then your strut bearing is gonna go on top of that. And then your strut hat, good day, mate. That will go on top of that. So that's the sandwich order. You do see that it has this little like point on it. I just have that facing towards the inside of the vehicle. I don't know if that's important or not, but that's where I'm gonna have it facing. And now we're gonna decompress the spring since I got it all tightened back up and get her on the van. Since it is exposed metal from us grinding it down, I'm just gonna put a nice little thin coating of anti-seize, so hopefully that will prevent any rusting and corrosion if we have to take this off in the future. And let's, where's my foot? Let's put this in here. So it's gonna help if you got like a pry bar to spread those cheeks a little bit. And there is a notch on your spring, whether it's this one or the factory one. There's a notch that will line up with the notch on your hub here, or spindle, or whatever the heck it is. That notch lined up that way, when you go to put your bolt back through, it'll go right into the groove. We want to be grooving and moving. Okay, so now we'll get that tightened up. So let's get the lower one tightened up. If you don't have the strut on correctly, it won't go. The bolt will not go because it's got to sit in that groove. So that's tightened up. Now we're gonna mount her back up. Oh my gosh. So when you get those tightened up, up on the top hat, on the strut mount, I would put a little bit of pressure on the control arm again, and just make sure that those are fully tightened up on top. Because we just kind of tightened those and it pulled the shock up. Now we're pushing pressure up on it. I mean, I could have done that beforehand, but I've only got one shock, so it doesn't make it. If you had, one shock, one jack. If you had two jacks, it would make this a heck of a lot easier. One keeping the car up, and one to jack it up. Okay, so now we have that all put together. Now we can put our brake line back. Brake line's tightened. Let's see. Our shock. Oh man, our shock is set in there. We're all lined up with the notch and the little bump on the spindle, hub, whatever. Tightened up top. And I just have left to put the wheel on. The other side is the same exact process. Should be a lot faster since you did one side and you kind of have an idea what's going to happen on the other side. But yeah, so I think I would stay away from the ones from eBay unless you want to grind them down. Or if you want to grind them down, get the eBay ones, but they don't fit. But yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Get yourself some lowering springs too, 500 yen. Just search down springs. Get yourself some down springs. You won't regret it. Okay, awesome. Take it easy, guys.